Welcome, guys, to this call with some of our former students from the Science and Labs and the Applied Science Forensics courses in Cavan Institute. This is the QQI Level 5 award in science. And some of these students here are great showcases of where you can go with the course. Okay, so we have Martin Farrelly, okay, a former student from around 2014. We have Brandon Keoghan, a former student from around 2015. And then Joanne Coyle, and we have Emer O'Neill, okay, bringing up the rest of the students. So my colleague Nora Hennessy is the class tutor for Science Labs, and my name is Shane Troy, the class tutor for the Applied Science Forensics. So can I start off with, I can see Martin on the top of my screen. So Martin, I'm wondering, why did you choose Cavan Institute, and what course did you do?
So I graduated in the class of 2013-2014, where I studied science and laboratory techniques. I suppose I decided that I was going to do the course in Cavan Institute because I only studied agricultural science and biology for my Leaving Cert. But because I wanted to do ag science in UCD afterwards, I had heard that there was a lot of chemistry. So in order to kind of bring me up to standard, I decided that I wanted to go to Cavan Institute to get a grounding, a strong foundation in the science.
You were one of our first students who came to do the progression route to the ag science in UCD. So look, it was a great course and a great progression route.
So it's fantastic, and I think it should be really highlighted more personally. I think it's definitely going to increase the number of students that are coming from maybe DESH areas or DESH school, that's going to progress them on to higher education. From my class alone, there was 3 of us that would have studied agricultural science, and we all came from Cavan Institute. So it's fantastic. The year that I went in, there was only 5 places awarded nationally for the level 5 progression route. That's since increased to 10 because of the popularity, and it's really been more inclusive and bringing more people from diverse backgrounds to higher education.
Awesome. Excellent. Let's move on to Brandon next. That's okay, Brandon. What course did you do, and why did you choose Cavan Institute?
I done the same as Mark. I done the science and laboratory techniques. Why I chose Cavan was, I suppose, leaving school, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. And my first year in Cavan, I studied the sports management course, and I had a real interest in like sports and PE teaching. I thought that was the kind of line I was going to go down, but then, you know, just from talking to people and like career guidance kind of stuff, I kind of ventured off onto this radiography path. So then after my first year in sports management, I went and spoke to Nora actually and asked, you know, could I get into the science and laboratory techniques, which was in quite a demand at the time, I think. Yeah. So Nora squeezed me in somehow and got me in. So I needed like physics and other sciences that I didn't have. I had biology in Leaving Cert, but I needed physics and chemistry, I think, you know, to progress onto radiography. So when I spoke to Nora, she was very accepting of me and squeezed me into the class. So very grateful for that as well. And yeah, that's how I ended up along the lines of radiography.
You went on to, where did you do your radiography degree?
I studied in Aberdeen then in Scotland, yeah. So I done the 4-year course in Aberdeen, yeah. So
radiography is a really hard course to get into in Ireland. It's another example of great progression route. A few students have done that since.
And you've since qualified now, and you're working in.
I'm working in the matter of private in Dublin, yeah.
Brilliant.
So it's been a good few years to me now. I'm very grateful of the choices I made in Cavan, yeah.
Yeah, you were one of our first students that headed down that route, and since every single year since, we've had 2 or 3 students from the course heading towards radiography. Quite a few actually heading to Aberdeen every year.
Yeah, I do get a message every year and once in a while asking me, you know, how I get on and what I thought of Cavan and that kind of stuff. And I always say to people, because I had such a good time in Cavan, you know, I done 2 years there, and I was living in Cavan, I was working in Cavan, so it was kind of a good 2 years that I kind of matured, and then, you know, tipped on to Aberdeen. So anyone that ever, you know, writes to me around and asks me for a bit of advice, you know, I always speak very highly of my time in Cav, because, you know, I was able to save money, I was able to learn to drive and mature a wee bit, I suppose, then for going on to college.
I wish I had done a PLC course at
Yeah.
the ages. I was 17, just turned 17 going to college, and it was too young.
Yeah. And even like a lot of people like went to Sligo and Carlow IT and studied the health science, you know, but that's a 3-year course to get into radiography, whereas, you know, the science and labs techniques is only a 1 year, you know, a 1-year course, and it gets you to where to the same level, I suppose, as people that studied in Sligo and Carlow. So it's a great way of progressing on to radiography, if that's, you know.
We have another student in Aberdeen at the moment, doing the forensic science course there. So it's a popular place. I was in Edinburgh for a year.
There's a big Irish community there. Yeah, big Irish community.
Did you support the Scottish club? Did you?
I kind of started supporting Aberdeen a wee bit just from being there. So I do follow them now a little bit every so often. It might be on Sky Sports or something, but no.
Right.
They're not very good.
Thanks, Brandon, for that. Joanne, how about yourself? What course did you do, and what are you doing now? Where have you ended up?
Oh, okay. So I did science and lab techniques. So I was there for the academic year 2009-2010. So now what I'm doing is I'm an assessment manager with the Irish National Accreditation Board. So I act as a lead assessor as part of our assessments of labs who are accredited to international standards. So it's a very interesting job. It's very fun, and it's very fast moving as well. So every day is different. So I really enjoy it. So I suppose why I would have decided to go to Cavan Institute. Firstly, I was so young, and as much as I probably didn't want to admit it at the time, I wasn't ready to leave home. So Cavan Institute was local for me, so I'm from Cavan, so it made sense to stay around for another year. And also I didn't get my first choice. So my first choice was veterinary, and I suppose for anyone who has been interested in veterinary at all knows how difficult it is to get into it. I think there's one college in Ireland, so it's very competitive. And obviously I was really disappointed when I didn't get it, and I didn't really want to commit to my second choice because I wasn't sure. And my second choice was science and UCD. So I decided to do science and lab techniques, I suppose just to confirm that that's the avenue I wanted to go down, which it ended up being the route I did take in the end. So yeah.
And what degree did you do then, Joanne?
Science and UCD.
Oh, you did science. Okay.
I did,
science.
Yeah. So I just deferred my course the first year and then accepted it for the second year.
Excellent. Okay, brilliant. Well, it was good to know that's what you wanted, because we do have that in for quite a few coming into us in science. Like yourself, they defer the course, not really sure what they want to do, and then that year either is definitely like yourself, definitely want to go down that route, or it's the, oh no, I never want to work in a lab, which is fine too, but at least you know after 1 year.
Yeah, because 4 years of a course it's a long time to commit to something if it's not something you really want to do. No. So it definitely was the right decision for me.
Excellent. Well done, Joanne. Emer, how about yourself? What course did you do, and where are you now?
So I did forensic science in, I think it was 2012, 2013, and actually came back as a mature student. I was out of school for 10 years, and I came home from Australia actually to go to Cavan Institute. And I chose to go to Cavan Institute because one, I wanted to see, was I going to be able to get back into the education way of doing things? Was I going to be able for it and all that? And I thought it probably was going to be the best step for me to see whether or not, you know, it was something I was going to be able to do. But also because I went to a DEIS school, and for the Leaving Cert phase, we were quite small and we weren't offered a science subject at that level. So I had only science up to junior cert, and I loved science. I always had a huge interest in it. So it was also to see, was I going to be able to do, like, was I going to be able for a science course, or is it just leave it there, you know, that sort of way. So I then went on and I did a ordinary degree in forensic science, or in forensic toxicology in AIT, and then I did an honours in general toxicology, and then I went on and did my postgrad studies, and I'm currently in my final months of my PhD in applied toxicology.
Wow.
Look for punishment.
Well done, Emer. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Dedication.
Yeah.
That
that's
lifelong
what
learning
tends
thing
to
is taking it
Mature
seriously.
students, I think they come back in I think they settle in very quickly into Cavan Institute, because we're very encouraging, I think. Did you find that?
Well, absolutely. But well, I probably was the biggest messer in the group. I was an immature student, probably, if I'm being honest. But no, like, I was 16 going 17 when I finished my Leaving Cert, and I was nowhere near ready to even consider going to college. I know for me, I did the right thing. I waited and I came back and I was focused and I got all the mad, well, I don't want to say drinking years out of my system, but the party years, I got all of that out of my system. When I came back to Cavan, actually, I think for me it was the right thing to do, because if I had gone straight into a college, having been out for so long, I think I would have packed my bags and left straight away.
You got the brain going again.
Yeah.
We always have a strong focus on things like referencing and critical thinking skills, and just really with an eye on the prize of progression. Science labs and forensics are basically progression courses. So, and like the mature students that come in, they're the leaders of the class, and you were even that year, and the support the other students with, like, just what's what.
Yeah.
That's my recollection.
Well, yeah, I mean, life experience.
Just listening to all of you guys, what I would really pick up from all of you is that doing that 1 year in Cavan Institute definitely set you on the path that you wanted to head down for your careers. And I think for all of you seem to have said, like, it basically matured you and gave you the grounding you needed in the science subjects you needed to progress to where you are now, all in very successful careers. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, which is fabulous.
I'll let you know.
Emer, you're doing great. I mean,
she'll have her second PhD done.
Yeah.
I was actually, one question I was going to ask is there any advice you give to your 17-year-old self, like coming into decision-making time for next year?
So I know, like, this year, and I have a group of 6 years myself, and I think you should be considering absolutely everything that's available to you. I don't think there's any point in discounting anything particularly in the year that we are in. Definitely consider everything. Don't make rash decisions. I firmly believe in PLC courses because they're so practical, they're so hands-on. I loved my time in UCD. I equally loved my time in Cavan Institute. But the practicality point of view, we did labs. We could have had maybe 2 or 3 labs a week in Cavan, whereas in UCD it's every maybe 2nd or 3rd week. So I knew when I was going in to UCD, I knew how to do a titration. I knew how to do it safely. I knew how you discount your first titrate because that's your rough titrate. You know all these technical things. You know how to use a pipette, a burette, and you have a person that's sitting beside you that's just come from secondary school that can't hold it correctly and is probably going to end up putting hydrochloric acid in their eyes. And so, there's huge benefits. You know, we got an introduction into professional life. We got to, you know, professional skills. We were able to go on work experience. So, you know, you're basically preparing yourself for life. Now, I know from my year, you know, some people didn't progress, and that was fine because they didn't want to progress. They wanted to go into a job. So they got those skills from the course, which was fantastic. I know from my own point of view, and you know, Shane's just after citing it there, referencing, it's the bane of my life. From my undergrad in agricultural science up until my master's, it was the bane of my life. But we did, you know, what was that module that we did in basically referencing
Communications,
communications. Thank you for that. Yes. So you know, you get the basics in that, and again, you hit the road running once you get to college. You know, there's a lot of continuous assessment like that in college, so you have to keep on top of things. You have to work consistently, but it definitely helps you in the long run because, you know, for some of the modules that we would have done, you know, continuous assessment could have been 50%, 40%, 30%. So it'll definitely help you in the long run. You know, I'm going to obviously speak very highly of Cavan Institute. I was the 2013-2014 Science Student of the Year, and I had the enormous opportunity to go to the University of Tartu for 2 weeks on professional work experience. So, you know, I loved my time there. I've made new friends. I've new connections with people in industry. But ultimately, it got me to the place where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. As the others has said, you know, it basically reaffirmed that, you know, I want to do something in science, but what do I want to do? So I think it's hugely beneficial for a student that's 50-50. Do I want to go down the science route? Yes or no? Cavan Institute, it's a year, it's low stakes. It's better than going to the likes of maybe NUIG and starting off in a completely different county, completely different city, and then not liking it after year one because you've achieved nothing. You know, you really have to get to year 3 before you get an ordinary
It's a taster.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
And did any of the rest of you go on the foreign trip?
So.
No, you didn't. Okay. We have it every year. Some students go. Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, no, it was very, very good. I really loved it over there in Estonia, and it was great. It was really, really good fun. So it was.
I'd forgotten to even think about saying that. So thanks, Martin. You
Yeah,
have a new career in marketing right there.
But the year that's in it with COVID, so we're not going anywhere. So it's like, oh yeah, we do go places actually.
Let's not mention COVID.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, what advice would you give to a prospective student thinking about starting the course?
I would just say maybe don't panic. I mean, when I was 17 and in the Leaving Cert, all I could think about, like all my decision making was based on where everyone else was going, you know. A lot of people, when I was in Leaving Cert, it was all about getting to Dublin and that kind of stuff. So I would just maybe say don't panic and, you know, take your time. There's no rush either, you know. You know, when I was in 17, I can remember it like in Leaving Cert, and all I wanted was to get to Dublin, and I needed the certain amount of points to go to Dublin when I didn't really, you know, because at 17, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. So I probably just say to anyone that's 17, especially the year that's in it now, just maybe, you know, don't panic. I mean, I know a lot of people when they do leave school are sure this is what they want to do, and that's completely fair. Like, but I mean, I literally hadn't a clue. I didn't even know what radiography was when I was in Leaving Cert, you know. So, I mean, don't panic and take the time you need to, you know, go to Cavan Institute, take a year and just work it out yourself, you know.
Even the learning from other students, what they're doing, gives you other options. You go, oh, I never thought of that. And just
exactly.
The better choice for you for the future, you know.
Yeah.
Like you're echoing my story from third level. I mean, I just wish I had gone to a PLC and, you know, would have been a bit more mature, but also maybe made a different choice on the course I did. You know?
Yeah.
Joanna, I'm going to put the same question to you, if that's okay. What advice would you give to a prospective student?
Yeah, the exact same. Don't panic and don't rush. I mean, like you have so much time to make a decision. I think the worst thing you could possibly do is just accept something, just because your friends are going. And like there is a pressure when you know that your friends are moving on, and you almost feel like you're being left behind a bit. But I mean, that's not the case. And I think the worst thing that could happen is that you could end up in something that you don't want to do. So definitely don't panic and think things through.
And you get the grant at level 5 as well. And if you were doing a first year and then change to a different first year, you wouldn't get the grant for that second choice. So I suppose that implication there, you know.
Yeah. And definitely to add on to as well to what Martin said, like I found the work experience and communications module so beneficial. So I think you're almost sheltered from what real work life is like when you're in secondary school. And I think the work experience module gives you a chance to actually see how that works and how it feels to actually be responsible for some things and how a business works in general. And even just putting together your CV, I mean, that was hugely helpful. And then in communications, I remember thinking at the time, like, what benefit is it going to be for me to learn how to do a presentation? But when you think about it, every time you have a job interview, you're basically presenting yourself, you're doing a presentation on yourself. So that would be my other piece of advice is don't, discount those kind of courses and those kind of modules, because you really do get some lifelong skills in those.
I remember you saying to me years ago about communications being the module you had. I thought you were going to say chemistry, or something,
Oh, sorry.
Something I taught, But then as I thought about it, I was like, everybody I know at the level of career that I'm my friends and all are all on calls, are all networking. Communication skills are just so vital.
I have to say, I remember that too, Joanne, you telling us that after doing one of the presentations that communications, you just were going, oh my God, that is a module that you'd got so much from, which is fantastic, because we are presenting. We're always presenting all the time. Doesn't matter what job you were in, especially now when we're all on calls online, you are presenting all the time.
You're always on. And like, I think that people need to be able to communicate well, and I think that people need to be confident doing it as well. And I think sometimes that's just missed in secondary school. So if this was a really nice environment to learn those skills before I was kind of thrown into the deep end in third level. So that was really helpful.
Right, so I'll pass on to Emer then. Emer, what advice would you give to a prospective student?
Well, it's very similar to what everyone else has said. I mean, take your time. Don't be jumping into third level before you're ready. I mean, I was 10 years before I was ready. Don't make rash decisions. Take the year. A PLC course really is invaluable for me, because I went to an IT, which is like practically based. Everything is from a practical point of view. Every single one of the modules I did in Cavan, I used in third level. Like I went in, we did at least 5 labs a week. When I went in first year, because of everything I was taught in the laboratory technique module, I was so confident going in that I could do everything. There was absolutely nothing that any of the lecturers put in front of me that I couldn't do, or that I couldn't think about and figure out how to do. Because I'm doing my PhD, like my communication level has to be very high. Everything I learned in that, obviously I still use to this day. Like, you've no idea how invaluable everything you learn is. And even the likes of, if you're going to say an IT for a science subject, you start off on like practically, right, everyone goes in, they assume, okay, you know nothing. I went in with such knowledge that I had gained in Cavan Institute that I cruised through the first 2 years, no problem. I knew everything. Obviously there was extra data coming in, that I was learning, but like the confidence I had was
the foundation.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's starting to ring in.
Yeah, same here. Excellent.
The weather isn't so good.
Nora, I'll hold my hands up. I might have forgotten how to use a pipette. I apologize.
All right, so Brandon, just
Progress,
I'll allow you
I
to
have
the
all
college
the
next
ones
week, so
down.
come on in and I'll show you how to use it again.
Well, he got very good at an MRI or something, I'm sure.
Yeah, wow.
That kind of beats a pipette now in the scheme of
Yeah.
things.
Brandon's communication levels have had to go really high in dealing with patients.
Yeah. Well,
I think we've kind of covered every question that we
Yes.
kind of wanted to ask.
Guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and having the chat with us, just even to catch up and find out where everybody is. And it's great to hear that you got so much out of Cavan Institute. You know, it does my heart good.
I suppose
thank
there's
you
no
so
other
much
examples
for
of
joining
students in the same position. And you know, you guys just stand out because you're inspirations for the pathways you found, and you were just great students and enjoyed to teach, you know. But just as to finish up, if anyone has any questions and wants to reach out directly to myself or Nora, feel free to drop us an email at shanetroy@cavaninstitute.ie or Nora Hennessy, 2 N's, 2 S's, at cavaninstitute.ie. And we'll happily get back to you with any query you have, just to make you make the best decision. You know? So thanks, guys.
Thank you.